Liliana would hold on to Godou, watching in the distant sky as her uncle, Savannah, engaged in battle against the rogue god Perseus. For Liliana, even after all this time, seeing that her uncle still retained so much power, after everything he had been through, it was nothing short of remarkable. Of course, she had only seen the man in passing a few times and hardly had ever had a chance to speak with him, but she knew all too well of his feats and exploits. After all, he was a Campione. But he was not associated with their order, that being the Bronze Black Cross. Nor did he no longer go by the last name of Cranjar like Liliana did. Instead, he decided to go by the maiden name of his deceased wife, Savannah. Thaddeus Savannah, or Doctor, as he preferred to be called. However, Liliana would have to turn her attentions back to Godou. He was holding on for life from the injuries of the multiple arrows he had been shot with, the divine arrows of Perseus that had managed to cut through his authority and were interfering with his powers. Athena would then appear before them. My, a famed Campione cut down before he could reach his prime. Is a pity, isn't it? Please, Liliana would say. He is in no condition to fight. Even you could not find honor in... I have no intentions on fighting him. I simply wonder why he was not using his authority. My authority? Yes, the power of Therathragna, the 10 authorities. Surely you know how to use them. And to think that the power of Therathragna was wasted upon you when you defeated him. The 10 incarnations, the 10 authorities, the Gale authority of wind, the Bull authority, enhanced strength, the Stallion authority, the power of the blazing sun, the Camel authority, the ability to increase your combat capability, the Boar authority that you're so familiar with pure destructive power, the Youth authority of vitality and magic protection, the Raptor authority of increased speed, the Ram authority, miraculous recovery, the Goat authority, the ability of lightning, and the power of the last authority, the Warrior authority that you used to defeat me with the divine sword of salvation, the power to cut through the divinity of the gods. All of that, and you still don't know how to use them. If you have any strength, you should summon the ram. That's the only thing that can save you. The power of the ram! Why should I? Whether you trust me or not, that's entirely up to you. But if you're content with dying now and bringing your miserable life to a close, then by all means go ahead. Godou would use what little strength he had left to summon the Ram authority, giving him miraculous recovery as he found himself falling into a sleeping coma. As Liliana would hold to him, she watched as Perseus would now begin to dissipate from the fight. Along with her uncle, Savannah, Perseus was taking his leave, noting that he would need to recover more before he could continue the battle. But he was indeed interested. That's a pesky little power of yours. I know it didn't come from divinity, Perseus would say. Of course not. But what could you ever understand about the power of man? Mankind are tricky individuals. You never know what they'll be capable of. Even for you. To tame the 7 deadly sins is no easy feat. But I ask, how long can you keep it up? Your body does not have divinity. You must use every sort of conjure, every sort of ability and maneuver just to keep yourself together. You're a man that's being held together by nothing more than a thread. For all that power, you're still too weak to use it. I'm more than powerful enough to do away with you, rogue god. After all, you're the only one who's running away. Now am I? That's big words coming from you. But I think we both could use a reprieve. As well as your friend down there. I haven't forgotten about him. Perseus would retreat from the battlefield. However, he made it very clear that he had plans on returning, as he disappeared into the night, leaving Savannah left alone with Athena, Liliana, and now another Campione, who bore the same powers as that child from long ago. Of course, Liliana would stand on guard against her uncle, as she did not wish for him to get any closer to Godou. This left him to turn his attentions over to Athena. Another rogue god in our midst. Do you also plan on causing chaos? Do yourself a favor, Campione, Athena would say, and save your grandstanding for your niece or for the others who you plan to placate to. You and I both know that you don't have the strength to bring me down. But you're not at full power yourself. Oh, so you're okay with the both of us perishing? If that's what it takes. I would hardly recognize this new Campione standing before me. You and I both know that you will only do what's in your own interest and to save your own skin. That's what you're best at. Oh, I assure you, Athena, you have no idea what I'm best at. Oh, I don't? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Besides, I need him to live for a while longer. He amuses me. And I guess you could be of some entertainment. As long as Perseus is defeated, then personally, I don't care which one of you do it. Although I won't lie, if I must intervene, I will save his life before I even attempt to save yours. Who says I need saving? Athena would disappear from them, leaving Liliana with Godou. Before Savannah even had a chance to speak to her, she was gone, leaving him to his own devices as he raised his hand over his right eye that glowed in ominous blue. He would quell the power that was within him as he attempted to recover his strength and prepare for Perseus' next move. In the meantime, Godou, after resting for what seemed like days, was finally awakened and in the care of Liliana Kronjar. Liliana was grateful that Godou had survived, and for himself to learn that there was more to his powers than even he realized. The power of Verithragna's authorities had truly come in handy, and he knew that there was so much more that he didn't yet realize about his skills. Also, while Godou was in the care of Liliana, along with members of the Bronze Black Cross, they saw this as an opportunity to recruit Godou to their side. After all, their faction was still at odds with that of the Copper Black Cross that Erica Blandelli hailed from. And because Godou was in good standings with Erica, it meant he was also in good standings with their organization. And because of Liliana's little stunt before the summer, when she betrayed Sasha Vauban, they lost the good favor of yet another Campione. So this was an opportunity to make up on that. Although for Liliana and the pleasantries that she exchanged, she always had a way of being far too formal, of taking everything way too seriously, even for Godou. Although she could have a more innocent and more naive side, and a more childish one, especially when Godou went snooping through her collection of books and found her light novels that she had been writing, causing him to earn the ire of Liliana as she attempted to strike at him. But still, Godou had more things to be concerned with, as he couldn't make any contact with Erica or the others. He wasn't sure how far he had gotten away from them, and he knew that with the situation being what it was, he couldn't leave until he dealt with Perseus. But that still left something else. Who was this other Campione? And more importantly, what connection did Liliana have to him, as well as this Billy Batson? Godou hadn't heard of any of these people, and Liliana would take time to explain. Of course, this was history dating back stretches of time, far more than anything that Godou could have ever understood, but for now he would get the logistics of everything. The Kranjar family were members of an order of magic users known as the Bronze Black Cross. The Kranjars were considered something of royalty, not in a sense of power, but more so in prestige. They had always had a good standing in the organization, and many powerful knights and other soldiers had come from their family line. So, you could imagine, to their surprise, when a member of the Kranjar family had achieved the status of Campione. However, during this time, there was also another, a boy from the United States, by the name of Billy Batson. He was the last one, supposedly, to have been chosen by the wizard Shazam before Godou. He had all of the same basic powers that Godou did, although he never defeated Verthragna, so he didn't have the authorities. That was one area where Godou held the advantage, but he was still powerful nonetheless. While much of the details of the incident had been lost to the sands of time, the gist was this. In the year of 1996, there was a skirmish that saw two Campione form an agreement, an alliance, if you will. Savannah and Billy Batson. The two of them had been at odds even before then, but they put those differences aside for the sake of the world. However, in the midst of this conflict, it was said that Savannah betrayed Batson, and he broke a sacred oath. Not a lot of things could be taken seriously, but a sacred oath, a binding one at that, that was something that could not be ignored. Because of that, he was excommunicated from the organization of the Bronze Black Cross. He was stripped of the name of Kranjar, and he was viewed as nothing more but a rogue Campione. His actions were so deplorable that even other organizations, even those of their rivals like the Copper Black Cross, wouldn't even take him in. From then on, he just worked on his own. Why he chose to go by the name Doctor was because he was a researcher of ancient artifacts, powerful weapons, and it was rumored that he was also capable of making his own. Among all of them, there was one artifact that he was most famed for. It was called the Eye of Pandora. Using the sacred artifact that he had created, the Eye of Pandora, he had been able to do the unthinkable. During Billy Batson's time as Shazam, he was the guardian of powerful beings known as the Seven Deadly Sins, powerful demons who had a great multitudes of abilities and were dangerous to mankind. More often than not, Shazam always kept them imprisoned. However, when they had managed to escape, that was when Savannah made his move. Using his newly made artifact, the Eye of Pandora, he sealed all 7 of the sins into the eye. thus granting him the ability to use their powers as he saw fit. Of course, this power worked like a double-edged sword. The power that granted him his immense strength was also like a poison. He had virtually become dependent on them, and if he were to lose all of them, he would be reduced to nothing but a mortal man. But still, even for that, he was a mortal man with a lot of knowledge, dangerous knowledge. And from then on, he had been leading a one-man army, a crusade against all rogue gods that came to the earth. And now his exploits had brought him here to Italy to do battle with Perseus and potentially track down Athena. But even more so, it had brought him into conflict with yet another champion. Between having Godou, Salvatore, Donnie, and now Savannah, 3 Campiones in one area, Liliana knew that this could not go well. And the situation only proved to be worse when Athena would arrive shortly after, as she had come to make a deal with Godou. Liliana, however, would attempt to take things into her own hands, giving Godou a sedative inside of the tea that she had made. It had a paralyzing agent that would cause his body to go limp and for him to be immovable. Liliana knew that making a deal with a god could be dangerous, especially for a Campione, because again, a vow, a sacred bond between two people, it was not something that could be easily broken, and when it was not something that was easily forgiven either. But Liliana did not sway Athena. It was only at the presence of Godou, who had secretly followed behind, that Athena even chose to give them the information that they sought. If they wanted to have any chance of fighting against Perseus, of being able to counteract his power of canceling out divinity, then they needed to know the secrets that Athena possessed. But of course, everything came with a price. And for Athena, her price was simple, that Godou should live. Because for Athena, she had plans for him, plans that had not been brought to fruition, and she didn't want them to end so soon. No, until they were able to meet at their full power once more, she had no intentions on letting Godou die. There was still so much work for him to do, so much in this lifetime. Of course, Godou would have to take this information in stride, but with them having what they needed, they could begin their search. If Godou was going to battle against Perseus, he would have to use the power of the divine sword of salvation. But in order to use that power, to use the authority of the warrior through the power of Verithragna, he would have to understand his origins. This was the secret to the power to bring a god down to that of a mortal man and to kill him, to know of its true origins. The world had a way of distorting things. Athena was living proof of this. So many people thought that the legend of Athena and the legend of Medusa were two separate entities, but that wasn't entirely the case. The legend of Athena and the legend of Medusa were one and the same. Once one whole that had been split in two, it was a trick by the gods. It was how they countered the ability to cut through their divinity. By changing their origins, where they truly came from and originated, their powers, their myths, their traditions. Throughout the history, this became embedded into mankind. Thus, they did not know the true secrets of the world. That was the danger of the sword of divinity, because through it, it could cut through the lies with the pure power of truth. Enhanced with the strength given to him, both Godou and Liliana would begin their preparations, because soon enough, Perseus would return with his challenge to both Godou as well as Savannah. But what was Savannah doing in the meantime? Why had he returned back to Italy? He had heard the rumblings of this Campione. At first, he didn't believe that such a thing was possible. He knew that Billy Batson died in 1996. But to think that the wizard would have chosen someone else. The being of his obsessions, the one that caused him to walk down the path that he did. And he had no regrets, not for the choices he made, but for the inaction. But that was a story for another time. Whether or not he would ever be forgiven, that truly didn't matter to him at this point. What mattered was the mission. He was the protector, the true Campione. Even if the world rejected him, it would not stop him from fighting for humanity. He would stand as its protector, a hated protector, but a protector nonetheless. Meanwhile, a power outage was happening over in the countryside with Erica and the others, meaning they couldn't get into contact with Godou, but they had their own problems to deal with as Salvatore Dani, the Campione, had arrived, and he was tying everyone up. "You were behind all of this?" Erica would ask the Salvatore Dani. He smiled his Cheshire grin of a smile as he had now tied up all of his loose ends. Pun intended. "Don't take it personal. The ropes aren't anything too restrictive, and I made sure that they wouldn't hurt you." "But still, why would you do this?" Maria would ask. "You were the one that struck down the Haragon and unleashed the dragon. You knew that that would bring Athena and Perseus to this area, and to Godou. You did all of this on purpose." "Yeah, well, everyone's got to take a gamble, and there's no point in sitting around and waiting for something to happen. Action requires equal or greater action. That is the way of the world. And besides, our young Campione needs to get a lot stronger. He needs more challenges. He doesn't really go to seek them out. Instead, he waits for all of his troubles to find him. And that's a very bad habit." "But why? Why are you doing this?" Erica would ask him. "Look, I know it doesn't seem this way, but I promise you, everything I've done is in Godou's best interest. Look, there's trouble." "Trouble?" "Mm-hmm. Trouble with a capital T. Although, you could say capital B. Let's just say that there's a certain someone who's on his way to Earth. And when he gets here, oh boy, you're not going to like what he does." "But who? Who could cause even you to feel such troubles?" Lucretia would ask him. "Someone you know very well. Someone that received the power from your brother long ago, well over 1,000 years." "No, you don't mean..." "Mm-hmm. Can't you feel it? The stars are beginning to hide themselves in the night sky. They run away in terror of what's to come. Soon enough, he will bring his fury to the earth. If you think us Campione are bad, oh boy, you haven't seen anything yet." "What is he speaking of?" Maria would ask, as she now found herself being tied up as well. "He speaks of the one, the betrayer, whom my brother banished to the cold depths of space long ago. But why? If he's coming, then that's all the more reason to..." "It's all the more reason for our young Campione in training to get stronger. Where he's at now, if he can't handle someone like Perseus, he's not going to have a prayer's chance in hell of dealing with the likes of Teth." "Teth?" Erica would say. "Teth Adam, although he now calls himself..." "Yes, the Black Adam, although legend refers to him as the first champion. The first champion? Erica would say. His stories are things of legend, but it was said that he died in battle. Yes, but now, Miss Blendelli, you of all people should know that you can never believe the history books. After all, they're written by the winners. Anywho, I've got to run. I've got a fight to spectate. Don't worry, those bindings will only hold for a short period of time. I imagine you'll find a way out of them, and by then, all of the fireworks should be over. And hopefully enough, our Campione was able to step up to the plate. And if he doesn't? Maria would ask. Oh, well, you know what they say. Sink and swim and all that jazz. Now, I'll leave you ladies to it. I gotta run. There's rumblings of a rogue god in South America, and I'm looking to test my mettle against it. As Salvatore would go to the open balcony, the girls watched as he stretched his arms wide, looking up to the full moon that shined down upon him. Yes, a glorious night for battle indeed. Shazam! Erica and the others would watch in awe as Salvatore Dani, the Campione, transformed just like Godou, adorned in blue and gold, with a cape similar to Godou's. For Lucretia, she had no idea that her brother had chosen yet another champion. That was now two, and what was worse, they had been giving the daunting information of what was to come. Maria and the others would look to Lucretia as they saw the look of worry on her face. Meanwhile, for both Godou and Liliana, they pored through the ancient texts that were given to them, as they were looking to find the true origins of Perseus, the warrior of steel, the god warrior, in hopes that Godou would have the advantage needed to bring him down. As they were reading, an arrow would fly through the window, shooting near Godou's head, and with it a message, a time and a place to arrive, as the battle was set to resume. For Savannah, he too would receive a similar invitation. Athena watched upon high, as in a moment's time, the battle between God and Campione would resume. And now it was time to see if Godou would have what it took. Was he truly worthy of the title of Campione? And if so, could he overcome the challenge before him as he grew into his own, understanding the power that had been bestowed upon him and the gravity of the situation that was to follow? Because little did they know that far off in the distance, an even greater foe was on his way. A foe that would bring with him destruction and chaos. The true embodiment of a Campione. This concludes Campione, Fury of the Gods. What if Kusanagi Godou was Shazam? Season 2, Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow as we continue with Campione, Fury of the Gods. What if Kusanagi Godou was Shazam? Season 2, Part 3. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.